It's really a great pleasure for me to welcome you all here this evening. It's a very important event. This really commemorates a very major body of work undertaken in collaboration between the Lancet and the London International Development Centre. It brings together a whole range of different disciplines to discuss the background of the MDGs, what they've achieved, what they haven't achieved, and where we might go in the post-MDG regime in 2015.
The Commission is unique because we brought experts from different disciplines to look at a common problem, the Millennium Development Goals. The problem with the goals is that they themselves represent interventions across a range of disciplines which are quite isolated and unconnected.
The MDGs certainly had a lot of strengths. They were very important in mobilizing a commitment to development. Some of those strengths are also associated with weaknesses. An example is weakness of indicators which lead people to try to achieve the target when actually maybe they're missing the point as what the target is for. Educational enrollments, for example. Getting people to enroll is not the same as getting people to learn.
On the education side, there is one important goal, that is achievement of universal primary education. In setting this particular Millennium Development Goal, there was no emphasis placed on quality of education. We now understand that quality of education is a critical aspect of education. It is not the number of years that a child has spent sitting in school that matters to their productivity in the labor market, or that matters to whether they are able to climb out of poverty as an adult, or that matters even to their wider social outcomes, such as their fertility rate as an adult, or how much they're able to help their children. What matters is how much they themselves learnt at school. So it's not quantity, but quality of education that matters to people's outcomes.
The reason that an interdisciplinary approach is important to future development goal planning is severalfold. First of all, the goals are linked. Education, health, environment. In our analysis, kept turning up missed opportunities to bring these together because the actual targets were so far apart. And there are really important linkages that need to be realized.
Several of my colleagues have made the point that synergies have not been exploited between, for example, health and education. And there's this big literature that shows that this is highly important. We know, for example, that very, very simple and very cheap remedies, such as deworming children, have massive effects on school attendance of children. So schools as a site for nutritional intervention.
Secondly, we learn a lot from what other disciplines do, from the way they approach it. In our group, we've had a tremendous interaction in discovering, what equity really meant and what inequity meant when we looked at it from a health perspective, from a gender perspective. It's very informative to go through the process of thinking about development issues across the board of elements of well-being.
The theme of inequity came out as an unforeseen aspect of the way the MDGs have been put into practice. What countries are focused on is getting people, a certain number of people just above a line, $1 a day, enrolled in schools. That creates inequities because some people are just getting a bare minimum. The other aspect of inequity is that the MDGs aim to reduce proportions of people, the proportion of people living on $1 a day. But that would basically mean that a certain proportion of people remain living on $1 a day or less. So it's not one to comprehensively cover all people.
We held back from actually suggesting a new set of goals. I think many people will be doing that over the next 5 years. And what we did was we took our observations, our comparisons across the goals, and we drew from that 5 principles, which if they were applied should lead to better goal setting in future.
Those 5 principles were holism, which is basically getting synergies between different actions, different areas, and also identifying gaps. The second principle is equity. Averages conceal a lot of things, not just the targets, but also the way we deal with them. The third principle is sustainability, that anything we do has to be sustainable. The fourth principle is again related, which is ownership, which is that people should have a sense of ownership, and that is very closely linked up with equity. It's very closely linked up with sustainability. And finally, global obligation, that those who are better off have a moral obligation to help those and to take responsibility for those who are not. We need a commitment to really work towards and deliver those targets and those goals in places where they're not being met. And that needs a renewed commitment by rich countries, by the UN system, and also by poorer countries' governments, that they will work in partnership and their own domestic policies will place a priority on helping the most disadvantaged who are identified in the MDGs.